right, welcome to part 2 here of the Tanares Adventures Learn to Play series of Quest 1, Fisherman's Wharf. Okay, so in part 1 we completed this first room where we only could do basically movement and basic attacks against the orb that had a defense of 3. We successfully defeated all of the tough HP of 25 hit points before the end of the round there, and was able to move on by removing this door. Our heroes get teleported here, which is actually written specifically in Event 1, where it says remove the purple statue, transfer all heroes to the orange mission tile, remove the big yellow door, and then place Reapers, and then it says 15R, 17B, 18G. What does that mean? So you'll see right here, there's a 15 and it's red color, 18 in green color, and then a 17 in a blue color. If we look at our villain cards here, you will see at the bottom left here is a number for the card of the villain. On the back, well, these ones I guess are the same color, but on this one it is a red card, and so it will use the red side of the card. So that's what it's trying to indicate to you, that you are using 15 our villain card, and then 18 and 17 like the other cards over there. Okay, so let's just get into how do we use primary attacks for a prime action, and what exactly, how does that work? And so each hero will have 4 primary attack cards that they will get to use. These will change level as we go up here. So at the beginning of the game, they are all level 0. They have a name, they have a range value, they have how many targets they're hitting or what area they're hitting. In this case, it's just one enemy. It has a hit value. It'll be 11 damage if it does successfully hit, plus an effect. The effect being, in this case, it's a temporary effect. The target is distracted 3 once per turn, and distracted is even written on here to kind of make it easy for you here at the beginning. Target has a -3 to its attack rolls. If you miss the attack, you get to do 5 R damage, which stands for residual damage, which occurs on all missed attacks, and they will take 5 damage. Normally, residual damage is not lethal, so if you have an enemy that is 1 HP and you miss this attack, you will do no damage. And then at the end here it says temporary, ends when the shooter's next turn begins, and there's an hourglass there to show that this is a temporary effect. Okay, so that is one of our options. We also have an ability here, Arcane Shot here, where we get to push the enemy here, and we can discuss that once we get to that. We also have hero-specific cards, you'll notice, because Avalon's picture is on this card. In this case, he has all combatants in a 3x3 area. So instead of just attacking a specific enemy, he can attack an area of any enemies or even allies that are in that area. And for each one he hits, he would do 9 damage, and then get to move them. So we'll do an example of that later here. And then next up is the Magic Missile of Tech, range 8. All of these are going to be range 8, and then it attacks one enemy in this case. It has a benefit where it ignores all harmful conditions on you. So if Avalon was cursed, which means he rolls twice and takes the worst result, he would get to ignore that when playing this card before he attacks. and then he would do 10 damage on hit, and then another 2 other enemies will take damage that are within range. Okay, so we are going to actually start with Avalon here. He is here in the back. We're going to have him attack the green villain that is back here. It is a distance of 7 squares away from him, which is exactly what we want to do here because Avalon's passive ability is doing more damage to enemies that he can move onto terrain damage, and he has to trigger it for enemies that are 4 or more squares away from him. So he will use the distracting shot ability, which we talked about earlier here on green. Since he will not be moving and there is no enemies within 3 squares of him, he will decide to focus on this, getting him a essentially -3 on the defense of the villain. So let's look at this villain before we attack it here. So this is the Green Reaper character. On the left you can see its stats: 40 HP, 5 defense, 5 movement, and 8 reaction attack damage here. And if he gets to hit, which we will get here in the next part, then he'll do a pretty good amount of damage here. But we need to meet or beat a defense of 5. But since he is being exposed by focus, that means we only need a 2 or better to successfully hit. So we got a 5, so that is a success. The distracting shot is an ability that gets placed on that villain here. So we would just kind of place the card on the, or at least near the other villain card here to indicate that now he has this distracted shot ability. We will, following in the order of the operations, as that is kind of a certain aspect of the game, is that things have to happen in an order. So we start with the hit damage, which is 11 damage. I have already placed the HP of the villains here on the track, so we will just move him 11 damage there. The next thing that we have to do is that passive. So we met the trigger, we get to move the villain 2. We will just move him. You can move 2, you can move 1. We are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are just going to move him just 1 here. He will take terrain damage. When he takes terrain damage from those spikes, he takes 4 damage. So he moves down to 5. Then we get to apply the effect here, which is deal +8 damage if it takes terrain damage during this attack, which it did. So it takes an additional 8 damage. That is a massive amount of damage here that Avalon just did by himself. He did 23 damage. Absolutely fantastic there. Okay, so Avalon has gone now. He has done his damage. We've now placed the effect to track on the villain. He did not take his movement action, or he used his movement action to focus. So he has used both actions. He is now finished with his turn, and we will now do the villain turn. So, specifically in Tanares Adventures, villains actually get to retaliate after they are attacked, if they are not fatigued. And it is always the first target that is hit. So in this case, the Reaper was the target that was hit, so he will get to retaliate. So who will he attack? Well, we look at the top right of the card here. It says 1 hero, and it says plus cubes. So on the reference card, it does actually say what each of the villains do here, but it's eventually you'll kind of get down after you've played enough to understand that it will attack the hero with the most mana cubes, and in this case, if it's a tie, if it is a tie, it's the closest hero. So Heroes in this specific quest have not earned mana cubes, so in this case it is a tie already from the beginning because everyone is at 0 mana cubes. Assessment here in his villain order. So the first one is favorite target, second one is taking the shortest path. And then the third one is actually trying to avoid damage if they can, but they will try to do the first two before anything else happens. So let's talk about a couple things here. So the villain here is 1, 2, 3, 4 away. Now, one thing to note specifically about commanders and commander pets is villains will just ignore the pet because the intent is that they're trying to go for the commander, and if they did not ignore the pet, then basically commanders would take significantly more damage. So the only way a commander's pet could take the attack is if it is the only choice if there's nothing else available, then basically then they would attack the commander's pet. But in this case, it can attack Garen or it can attack Rank here. So it is 4 away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And what's going to happen is he's going to move. So when he goes through, after he continues stepping on these spikes, he does not take any additional terrain damage yet. He has to leave a square and then re-enter, and that can only happen once per turn. And so since it is his turn, he technically hasn't taken the terrain damage yet, so he would have to leave and then re-enter to take it, but he won't be doing that in this one. But he will step over here and then step over here. And when he is leaving a square that is adjacent to the commander's pet here, he will trigger something called a reaction attack. So a reaction attack is something that occurs and this is for heroes or villains, if they leave a square that is adjacent to a hero or a villain, whatever is opposite of their team, if they leave that square, then they will suffer a reaction attack unless they do something called a sidestep. In this case, his villain can't do that, so he will suffer automatically 5 reaction attack damage from Gladius the pet. So then we'll move it down to 12 there. Okay, so he leaves the square, he moves there now, and the villain can only suffer 1 reaction attack per turn here. So nobody else would be able to do reaction attack damage if there was a case here of a choice of, say, Rank here who does more reaction attack damage. If he also could potentially trigger one, we could technically choose which one if they're of equal. So of equal in the same spot. But in this case, that wasn't the case. It's only Gladius, so Gladius will do that 5 reaction attack damage. Okay, so now the villain will take his turn, and he is going to target Rank here. We do get to choose since they are equal, and he will attack Rank here because he's got a high defense and he has more HP. So now he will roll similar to how the villains and heroes did. He rolled an 11. Now we would then add our distracted here, which is a -3, which then makes it an 8, which is still too much and exceeds his defense. So Rank here will take, and we're going to follow here on the card, 14 damage on the hit. So we'll move Rank here 14. And then it says, so there is no villain, this villain has no passive power, so there's nothing to do on this. This is just an easier card to kind of train us, so he won't have anything. And then the effect is the villain with the highest HP gains 1 empowered 3 token, ends only if used. So you see this token here. He will give it to the villain with the highest HP that is also within his range. In this case, that is red. Red will get this token here, and we will place it on red's villain card to indicate that he has more damage when he successfully makes an attack. Okay, so now that that villain has finished here, we've done the damage, we will take one of these black cubes here, they are called fatigue cubes, and we will place it on top of the green villain card. That indicates that he is now fatigued. He will no longer take a retaliation after an attack from the heroes. All right, so it is back to the hero's turn now, and we will decide to go with Skara. So Skara here will go next. So she does have the simplified card here. So we can get a benefit. This occurs at the start of the attack. And we get this basically even just right here at the beginning, so we can do a +1 to our attack roll or a move 2. We will take the +1. That'll give Skara a better chance of hitting. She cannot focus in this case because she is too close. She is back here, too close to this villain. So she would not be able to focus. So she will now attack this villain with her ability here. That is an 11 plus the bonus of 1 is 12, and that is a success. So now Skara here will do 7 damage to green. So she is attacking green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so he's getting pretty low here. All right, so Skara has hit. So now we do the effect of healing a hero or dealing +3 damage, dispel 2, and an ally moves 3. We'll go with the heal because we don't really need the damage on this one here. So we will heal rank here 5. So now he is at 56. All right, so, and I forgot to place the fatigue here. So Skara has now gone, and now her pet will actually go now. So Gladius, who is already next to them, can do an attack. Now, there's actually something kind of interesting here that Gladius can do to increase his chances of hitting, because we're going to still go after this green character, try to finish him off. So Gladius can use all of his movement to do something, and even, so all heroes can do this, even villains can do this. They use all their movement to sidestep one space. So Gladius moves here. And he does that to get behind the target there. So he has used all of his movement, but he's done this for a specific reason. So similar to how the range characters have focus, melee characters are really characters that position themselves in a situation where they are separated by another character by 1 square. So in this case, Gladius is doing something called a mob with Renkier. So Renkier and Gladius are both kind of surrounding this villain character, which makes him exposed as well. And so that will give Gladius a better chance of hitting. And he also will be doing a basic attack, so he gets a +1. So really, he's getting a +4 chance of actually hitting here. And that is a success. So, so it was a -3, right, from the exposed. which would make it a 2, and then the +1, so that's a 17, so that does succeed. And the Gladius would do 5 damage there, and that will kill green, and he is off the board. Normally, when a villain gets killed, everyone will get a mana cube, which we'll talk about later. But in this case, just nothing happens. Skara's turn is almost over here, so she would be a companion, hits an enemy in 5 of you, first hit of its primary attack, which would work. But the effect is a hero may charge a skill token. We'll talk about that in part 3 once we unlock these skill pads. So in this case, nothing is happening. So we have 2 characters that were wint. Now you notice that the other ones have not gone yet. This card, since green is now dead, will actually go back. Rank here, go. Searing Vengeance. So rank here will move his 5 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, only 4 squares he needs to get to red. And he will use Searing Vengeance on this one, range 1 enemy, and we'll see if he hits. We roll the dice, 12, that is a hit, and he will do 11 damage here on red. So red will take 11 damage, which will bring him down here. Then it says, so I guess another thing I should probably go over real quick is Rankier's passive is actually a little bit different. He has a circle of retribution here. So what, instead of triggering after making an attack, his is actually triggers at the start of his turn. And if there is at least 1 enemy in 2 of you, then he would get to do this effect. Unfortunately, he did not get to do this one because we had already killed that enemy. So we're just kind of skipping that for now. Searing Vengeance. So the target is cursed once per turn, so he'll roll twice and take the worst result. And the target will take +5 damage if it is a dragon or its Mark of Death effect is applied on it. Mark of Death is a special attack by Rankir here that he has. So in this case, he will not actually get that +5 damage, but he will still apply his card to red. Okay, so Rankir has done his attack. He has moved, and now he is finished with his turn. We will now do the retaliation for red. Red wants to attack the hero, and we'll see, look here at red. He has a range 1 attack here, and he is attacking the hero with the most HP. So let's look to see what's going to happen here. So normally Rankir was the highest HP, but he is actually not the highest HP now. Garen and Skara are the highest. So we'll look here at the villain. He can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and attack Garen. That way he can attack, and he could go either way, but let's see which is shorter. So 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't cut this corner because this is a wall. If you try to cut, then that's not a legal move. So he has to go around the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So technically, the shorter path is for the villain to walk into the spikes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he will take 4 damage, which will bring him down to 20. Now he will make his attack here on Garen. He is cursed, so he will roll twice. An 11, that would be a hit, and a 10, that unfortunately is still a hit. So Garen will end up suffering 17 plus 3 from the empowered he received earlier. So Garen will take a huge hit of 20 damage, bringing him down to 40 HP. Okay, so that is it for the red villain's turn. He has already finished here. All right, so now it is back to the heroes. We only have one hero here left. It is Garen. Yeah, let's kill him off. Actually, this would be a good one. So Garen has an ability here called Backstab. It is a range 1, one enemy. Ignore all effects applied by your enemies on the target. And so that basically means if he was protected or he had other beneficial effects that would make him take less damage, then we would get to ignore that. So we will do Backstab here on the enemy. And he already is in a mobbed position between Garen and Gladius, so Garen doesn't even need to move. So since he is mobbed, he is exposed. And we'll talk about that here in a second. So a 5, that is a hit. It meets the defense value here of this character. So we will do 11 damage here from Backstab. Then we will look here at our passive card. So his is Tactics. Trigger an ally is in one of the target. First hit of the turn. So we do have an ally. Gladius is considered an ally for us. So he will deal +9 damage if the target is exposed, which he is because of the mob. And that will kill Red. So Red is now dead. All right, we are on the villain's turn here at the end of the round, who has not taken his turn yet. So he is actually too far away. You'll see that he is trying to attack the furthest away hero. Now that is outside of his movement 5 range. So he won't be able to get to, Avalon or Scaras, who he'd normally need to go after. Instead, just to get in to be able to attack, he's going to have to do something called a Dark Surge. So a Dark Surge is a way for a villain to take a pretty small amount of damage, but it allows him to double his movement stat. So instead of the 5, he will be a 10. And then instead of going after his favorite target, he will just go after whatever hero is the closest. And this is actually the one exception here for the commanders. If the pet were close, or your companion pet was close enough, and a villain needs to Dark Surge, they will actually go after your pet in that case. Otherwise, most of the other times, they're kind of ignoring them and they're trying to go after you instead. Okay, so this blue character here is going to go, and for him to Dark Surge, the first thing he has to do is take 3 damage to do so, and then he's going to try to move with a few spaces possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He is just in range, as he does have a ranged 2 ability there. So the villain here has moved into position now, and he is going to attack Rankir, who is the closest available hero that he can actually hit, and he will roll to hit, and nope, he's only gonna get a 4. So he is going to miss Rankir, which means he will take that 8 residual damage, bringing him down to 48. So that will be the end of the last villain here of the turn, and we will be moving to the next round. All right, we are on the new round here. Avalon here is about to get started, and he is going to do Arcane Shot. So he has range and vision on blue over here. So he will roll the die and successfully hit with a 10 there. So he will do 12 damage to blue. We'll then look at his passive here, which is the target is 4 or more away, so he will get to move the target 2 squares. So he will move here through the spikes, and he is taking terrain damage, so he'll take 4 from the terrain, and then 8 from the passive effect of Avalon. And the last part here is Arcane Shot specifically pushes to the target. The only requirement is that the distance increases between Avalon and the target. And we're going to flip this over here, so we will now move him 1, 2 back. Okay, so Avalon is finishing his turn here. He has already gone. This villain has 8 hit points left, and he has to make his turn. So he will attack the character that is the furthest away here, marked up here by the top right corner. So currently the furthest away is Avalon or Skara. And so the villain would then choose his favorite target, which is them. Then he tries to take that shortest path, and the shortest path, unfortunately for him, is going right past rank here and going through that spike. And as soon as he does that, he takes a reaction attack from rank here, doing 8 damage, thus killing blue. And that is it for the round here, as the rest of the heroes don't need to take their turn. They will end up being automatically teleported to the next location. And in part 3 here, we will continue the Learn to Play series, as the heroes will then be able to start using their skill pads and mana cubes. So we will discuss that in part 3. Thanks for watching.